Everyone, today I will be talking about artist Don Kirby, born in 1936 in northwestern Missouri. He has a very interesting story, and I really appreciate his art. I think I'm going to start off by by telling his story first. He was born to a family of sharecroppers in northwest Missouri again, and his family eventually ended up moving on to other work, and he took a liking to math and science. And through his love of math and science, he began to learn how to develop chemicals for photography, and he was connecting those dots, but he ended up not taking up photography for a while. He actually moved to the West Coast in Southern California to take up aerospace engineering, literal rocket scientist, and like anyone who's a rocket scientist in the I think it was like the late 50s by now, early 60s, he needed a break, and he took up the Southern Californian dream of running into the woods and taking a bunch of pictures. So after that, he grew such a love for it that he ended up wanting it to be his job, his career, so he retired from aerospace engineering. I can't remember the name of the branch that he worked at. Unfortunately, I wish I could say. It might have been NASA, but I'm not sure. He's surprisingly hard to find information on. He's still alive to this day, and if I had more time to prepare, I would have tried to schedule an interview or something with him, because he's not inaccessible like a lot of other artists on the list. Like, he's fully alive, he's fully well, and he's not absolutely through the roof loaded. He's still contactable. But I didn't have time, so as much as I wanted to talk to Mr. Kirby, I couldn't. Anyways, he took up hiking and he took up photography, and he shoots on black and white film, and he photographs mostly landscapes, though he does have a series showcasing light work and the modern car showcase community, which is a really cool set, but I couldn't find any pictures to print off. Again, I have pictures to print off, so I'm going to start going through his artwork and why I think it's super interesting and important. And today I'd like to talk about or not today, but first I'd like to talk about windows, doorways in a bush home in Washington. And fun fact, his most popular series was his wheat field series. These two pictures are my favorites from that series. And as I was going through his archive, I noticed that 90% of his Wheatfield series, 90% of his most popular pictures were actually taken on the West Coast, which really, really intrigued me, because when you think of the West Coast, you don't think of the wheat fields, but that's literally the half of every state, because on the West Coast you have the Cascades, and the Cascades cut through the middle of all three states. And so the opposite sides of the mountain are two different states completely. And if I told you that this was taken in, I believe, Northern Oregon, I don't think most people would believe me. This photo is called Controlled Burn, and it was taken in the late 90s, I believe. And here you can see the smoke cloud, and this is actually the sky. At first I thought this was the cloud, these were the clouds, and the rest of it was sky, and the sky was just dark, but it's not. You can see, I don't know how well you can tell through video, but there's a small building back here that you can see, and I really like this is a very clear use of the rule of thirds. This bottom bit is 1/3, these are 2/3. And I also really like this one, which again showcases the rule of thirds, and it has a really sharp contrast. This one isn't of a controlled fire. This one is, I believe, called Storm in Thunder Valley. I'm not sure, but I know this was taken in Thunder Valley, and I think it's very beautiful because the sharp contrast between the mountain or the hill and the storm clouds is like really shocking and beautiful, and you can see it from like a ways away, which is something else that I really like about his work. It tends to pull the eye from really far away, and this one I really like because it creates a sense of curiosity, because usually if something is being pulled back and back and back in art, it will create a pull of anxiety and not a pull of curiosity. But because of the shaping here, because of the fact that it's all rectangles, it creates a sense of stability, and the stability in the picture from the repeating rectangle shapes allows for it to be curiosity and not anxiety, which I find really interesting. But again, it really pulls the eye. It's you can see the like dark contrasting shape here between the light complex one here, and I find it really interesting and I really love it. So Don Kirby now, he is retired. He used to teach, I think, photography in Seattle and Portland. He would go between the two, and he has like a summer workshop. He might still have a summer workshop, but I think very recently he stopped. Now he goes with his wife, and they live in an RV now, and they travel to a bunch of different places. This place is in Utah. I believe it's called Ruins of a Pueblo, and I really like this one because, again, there's a lot of contrast, and I find the key to creativity is restriction. So, like, the more restricted you are in what you can do, the more you are forced to be creative, and it's, like, my favorite tool. If I'm in a creative rut, I pick, like, 2 colors that I can use, and it really boosts my creativity. And I feel like he does a really good job of showcasing this, because if this were in color, you wouldn't be looking for the shapes and the values. Like here you've got the like rectangle, and then you've got this like super bright wedge, and it's really interesting to me. I also really like this picture because the coloring in the rock looks like it's smoke coming out of this little pueblo here. And yeah, I just really like it. Again, he's known mostly for his landscape photography, but he actually only has a few pictures of non-inland places, if that makes sense. Like, a lot of the places he's in are very reminiscent of the setting and feeling of Northwest Missouri, which is where he's from. And I find it highly interesting. And for my last picture that I'm going to talk about this one. This is just a dock in Oregon. And I picked this one because I know exactly where this is. Because my grandpa's got it, almost the same picture. But I find it really interesting because in film, you get to me at least, the grain in film creates a more, like, antiqued effect. Like, this is a very recent picture. This was taken in 2013, 2014, which is recent compared to a lot of his, because almost all of his pictures were taken, like all of these were taken before 1998. And yeah, so his more recent stuff, his style hasn't changed very much, but you can see how the different places he's gone to has affected how he does his work. Like, through the Wheatfield series, it's very clear the like contrast and the rule of thirds. And the series of the ancient pueblos, which is another series he has on his website, they're really focused on the shape and the values. And his more recent stuff has been a lot more lighthearted and not easy, but easy on the eyes, more same. Like, it's there's more to look at, if that makes sense. Like, I love these two pictures. I love the Wheatfield series, but his more recent stuff is more like consumer friendly, which I think might have been his goal, because he makes most of his money from selling things on his website now that he doesn't do his photography classes anymore. But yeah, that was Don Kirby. To summarize, young man born in 1936 in Northwest Missouri, became an aerospace engineer, took up photography, and one thing I didn't bring up was his drive to take these photos. They're made to like elicit at least his earlier works were made to elicit the same kind of peace that he felt when he would go on his hikes and his walks during his engineering job. And I think that that's really just a powerful statement, because you can look at all of these and feel, the like same level of peace, and I really appreciate it. It's very beautiful work. I am super impressed by people who shoot in films, because I also do photography to some extent, but I could never do film. It's very impressive to me. Anyways, thank you very much.